The dust rose around Emma Collins' boots as she walked down the only road out of Willow Creek, her carpetbag clutched tight in her trembling hands, and her chin lifted high so no one would see how close she was to breaking. She had promised herself one thing that morning. She would not cry in front of them. It was 1876, and the West had not welcomed her the way she once believed it would. 6 months earlier, she had stepped off the stagecoach with hope in her heart. A 22-year-old schoolteacher from Boston, ready to build something meaningful. She believed education could change even the roughest frontier town. Willow Creek proved her wrong. The mayor's wife disliked her from the start. A young, educated woman who spoke her mind did not sit well with her. And when Emma refused the mayor's brother after his shameless advances, everything turned dark. Rumors began spreading like dry grass catching fire. Lies about her character, whispers in the general store, cold stares in church. No one defended her. Even worse, no one asked her side. By the time she heard the first accusation spoken aloud, it was already too late. The town had chosen what it wanted to believe. Now she was leaving with nothing but her dignity. The morning bustle continued, as if she did not exist. Shop doors opened. Ranch hands laughed near the saloon. Wagons rolled by. Not a single voice called her name. That silence hurt more than the lies. The stagecoach would not return for 3 days. The nearest town, Silverdale, was 30 miles away. She did not care. She would walk every step before spending another night in a place that had crushed her spirit. Hoofbeats sounded behind her, but she did not turn at first, probably another rancher heading out. The rhythm slowed. The horse matched her pace. Then she heard the voice. "Not alone again." Her breath caught. She knew that voice. She stopped and turned. Ethan Everett sat tall on his chestnut gelding, the morning sun outlining his broad shoulders. His weathered hat cast a shadow over his strong face, but his blue eyes were steady and serious. "Mr. Everett," she said stiffly, "I appreciate the concern, but I can manage on my own." He dismounted with quiet grace, landing in the dust before her. He stood tall, solid, calm. "I never doubted you could," he said. "But 30 miles of open land is no place for a woman alone." "I will take my chances with coyotes," she replied bitterly. "They seem more honorable than this town." His jaw tightened. "Yeah, I heard what happened." Her composure almost cracked at that. One simple sentence of belief after months of silence felt like a kindness too heavy to carry. "I do not need pity," she whispered. "You are not getting pity," he answered firmly. "You are getting respect." She swallowed. "I cannot stay here." "I'm not asking you to." He gestured toward the wide-open prairie ahead. "I am asking to ride with you to Silverdale. After that, you choose your road. I will not interfere." She studied him carefully. He was known as a quiet rancher, kept to himself, never one for gossip, always tipping his hat politely when they crossed paths. Unlike most men in Willow Creek, he had always looked her in the eye. "Why?" she asked. He hesitated, just for a moment. "Because it is the right thing," he said. "And because no one else had the decency to stand beside you." Pride battled reason inside her. She wanted to prove she needed no one, but she was not foolish. The land between towns held danger. "You will take me to Silverdale," she said carefully, "and nothing more. You have my word." After a long pause, she nodded. "Very well." He secured her bag to his saddle and offered his hand. His palm was rough, warm, steady. She hesitated only a second before placing her hand in his. He lifted her easily onto the horse, then mounted behind her. She sat rigid at first, painfully aware of his closeness. His arm reached around to hold the reins. "Ready?" he asked, softly near her ear. "Yes." As the horse moved forward, she glanced back at Willow Creek one last time. Figures stood watching from the boardwalk. Let them watch. She faced forward. The prairie stretched wide and golden under the rising sun. For the first time in weeks, her chest did not feel tight. They rode in silence for nearly an hour. Ethan did not press her with questions. He did not try to fill the quiet. That alone earned her gratitude. When they crested a small rise, his ranch came into view. She blinked in surprise. It was no small homestead. A large log house stood proud against cottonwood trees, a sturdy barn, corrals, cattle grazing across rolling acres. "You built all this?" she asked before she could stop herself. "My father started it," he said. "I kept it growing." There was pride in his voice, but no arrogance. They approached the house, and a woman stepped onto the porch. Strong posture, kind eyes. "Mrs. Garcia," Ethan called. "We have a guest." Emma slid down from the horse, suddenly aware of how dusty and worn she must look. Mrs. Garcia studied her quietly, then gave a small nod. "I heard the rumors," she said simply. "I did not believe them." Emma felt something inside her soften. For the first time since arriving in Willow Creek, she felt seen. "Miss Collins will stay here tonight," Ethan explained. "We leave for Silverdale at dawn." Mrs. Garcia smiled gently. "Then you will eat first. No one leaves my table hungry." Inside, the ranch house was warm and welcoming. Solid furniture, curtains at the windows, embroidered pillows. It felt like a home. Later, after washing the dust from her face, Emma stared at her reflection. Her auburn hair had come loose. Her green eyes looked tired, but still alive. "This is not the end," she whispered to herself. That night, lying in a clean bed beneath a western sky full of stars, she listened to distant cattle and the quiet murmur of voices below. For the first time since the accusations began, she did not feel entirely alone. But she did not yet know how much her life was about to change. The fire crackled low beside Deerfield Creek as the sun dipped beneath the hills, turning the sky into shades of orange and deep purple. Emma sat across from Ethan, her hands wrapped around a tin cup of coffee, watching the flames dance while her thoughts refused to settle. The prairie was quiet, except for the soft rustle of wind through cottonwoods and the steady chewing of the horses grazing nearby. It should have felt lonely out there in the open land. Instead, it felt safe. Ethan finished securing the tack and came to sit across from her. The firelight caught his strong features, softening the lines carved there by years of hard work. "How are you holding up?" he asked. She considered the question honestly. "Better than I expected." He nodded once, as if that mattered more to him than anything else. They ate a simple meal of beans and bacon, sharing the last of Mrs. Garcia's biscuits. Conversation came easier than it had that morning. The distance from Willow Creek seemed to loosen something tight inside her chest. "You surprised me today," she said quietly. "How so?" "I expected you to say very little. You always did in town." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Town talks too much for my liking." "And out here?" "Out here," he said, looking around at the wide, darkening land. "Words matter more." She studied him carefully. "Why did you really come after me?" she asked at last. The question had lingered since he first rode beside her. She needed truth, not politeness. Ethan set down his cup and looked straight at her. "Because I have watched you for months." Her breath caught. "I watched how you taught those children," he continued. "I watched you stay calm when parents questioned you. I watched you refuse to bend when people tried to make you smaller than you are." She felt heat rise to her cheeks, but she did not look away. "When the accusation started," he said, his voice lower now, "I wanted to speak. I should have. I regret that silence." His jaw tightened with something like shame. "I did not know," she whispered. "I thought everyone believed it." "I never did." Those 3 words settled deep in her heart. The wind shifted slightly, yet carrying the scent of grass and water. The sky darkened fully, stars appearing one by one overhead. "You are braver than you think, Emma," he said softly. "Most would have stayed and begged to clear their name. You chose to walk away with your dignity." She swallowed hard. It did not feel brave. It was. Silence fell between them again, but it felt different now. Warmer. Later, when she lay wrapped in her bedroll beneath the stars, she found herself replaying his words over and over. Not alone again. The next morning dawned clear and bright. They broke camp early and rode on, the land gradually rising into rolling hills. The rhythm of the horses' hooves became steady and comforting. By midday, dark clouds began gathering on the horizon. "That storm looks trouble," Ethan said, scanning the sky. "We need to reach Miller's Crossing before it hits." They urged their horses forward. Rain came hard and fast. By the time the small settlement appeared ahead, they were soaked through. Emma's riding skirt clung to her legs, her braid heavy with water. Inside the trading post, warmth and firelight welcomed them. The owner, a thick-bearded man named Miller, offered 1 room with 2 beds. Emma felt her face warm at the implication, but she lifted her chin. "That will be fine," she said calmly. Upstairs, the small room felt tight after days beneath open sky. Ethan immediately turned toward the window. "I will give you privacy," he said. "No," she replied quickly. "You are freezing." There was no awkwardness in his manner, no impropriety in his gaze. Only respect. After changing behind the privacy screen, she emerged to find him already turned away, giving her space. That quiet decency steadied her more than any promise could. At dinner, whispers floated around them from other travelers, but Ethan leaned slightly closer. "Let them talk," he said quietly. "They do not know you." Storm winds rattled the windows that night. Emma lay awake listening to rain strike the roof. "Ethan," she whispered into the darkness. "Yes?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For treating me as if I matter." His answer came steady and sure. "You matter more than you realize." Morning brought clear skies and unexpected news. Miller handed Ethan a copy of the Willow Creek Gazette that had arrived by rider. Ethan read it first. His expression shifted. "What is it?" she asked. He handed her the paper. The headline made her heart pound. The mayor's brother had confessed. The accusations were false. Witnesses had confirmed it. The town council had formally cleared her name and requested her return. Her hands trembled as she lowered the paper. "They know the truth," she whispered. Ethan studied her carefully. "Will you go back?" The question hung heavy in the air. Would she return to faces that doubted her so easily? "Would you?" she asked quietly. He took his time answering. "I would go where I am valued," he said. Valued. The word echoed inside her. They rode again that morning, taking the high road toward Silverdale. The land below looked freshly washed from the storm, bright and full of possibility. "My options have changed," she said finally. "They have," he agreed. They stopped at midday near a spring. As they ate, Ethan looked at her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "I do not want to say goodbye in Silverdale," he said plainly. Her breath caught. "I admired you from the moment you came to town," he continued. "But these past days, riding beside you, hearing your thoughts, seeing your strength up close." He stopped, searching for words. "I care for you, Emma. Deeply. More than I should, perhaps." The world felt very still around them. "I do not want you to leave," he finished. Her heart beat so loudly she wondered if he could hear it. "I do not want to leave you either," she admitted. Hope flickered in his eyes. "What are you saying?" he asked. She drew in a steady breath. "I am saying that I came west, searching for purpose. I thought I lost it in Willow Creek. Well, but maybe I was simply meant to find it somewhere else." He stepped closer. "Stay," he said. "Not as a guest. Stay with me. Build something at the ranch. A school. A life." Her eyes filled, but this time the tears were not from pain. "Are you asking me to marry you?" she asked softly. "Yes." The word came without hesitation. "Yes, I am," her heart answered before her mind could argue. "Yes." The fire of the afternoon sun warmed her face as relief and joy flooded through her. "Yes, Ethan." He let out a breath he had been holding for days and took her hands in his. And for the first time since she walked out of Willow Creek, Emma did not feel like she was running from something. She felt like she was choosing something. They did not ride toward Silverdale that afternoon. Instead, they turned their horses around. The high road stretched ahead, but Ethan guided his gelding gently to the west, toward Everett Ranch. Emma followed beside him, her heart racing not from fear this time, but from certainty. The sky felt wider than it had that morning, the air cleaner. Every mile back felt like stepping closer to something she had not known she wanted until it stood before her. They did not rush. They stopped often, sometimes to rest the horses, sometimes simply to look at each other and laugh at the suddenness of it all. "You realize," Emma said with a teasing smile as they made camp that night, "that you proposed to a woman you have known properly for only 3 days. Ethan stirred the fire and glanced up at her. "I have known you longer than that." She tilted her head. "I watched you teach," he continued. "I watched you defend your students. And I watched you walk out of town with your head high when others would have begged." He stepped closer, his voice softer. "I knew then the kind of woman you were. I just did not have the courage to speak." Emma's chest warmed. "And now?" she asked. "Now I am done staying silent." The next afternoon, Everett Ranch came into view. The golden light of sunset washed over the house and barns, making the windows glow. Mrs. Garcia stepped onto the porch when she saw them crest the hill. Her sharp eyes missed nothing. "You are back early," she called out. Ethan dismounted and helped Emma down, their hands lingering together. "Change of plans," he said simply. "Miss Collins will not be going to Silverdale." Mrs. Garcia folded her arms, studying them both. Then her serious expression broke into a knowing smile. "I thought so," she said. Emma laughed softly, relief flooding her. "Mrs. Garcia," Ethan said proudly, "this is the future Mrs. Everett." The housekeeper clasped her hands in delight. "Welcome home, Nina." Home. The word settled deep inside Emma. The following days passed in a blur of planning and quiet joy. Word spread quickly among neighboring farms. Ranch hands offered congratulations. Even Frank, the foreman, tipped his hat with a grin and said, "About time." But one thing remained unfinished: Willow Creek. Emma insisted they ride into town together. "Not to ask permission," she said firmly, "but to stand tall." Ethan agreed without hesitation. When they entered Willow Creek side by side in the wagon, heads turned again. But this time, the whispers sounded different, curious, uneasy, regretful. The newspaper confession had done its work. At the mayor's office, Mayor Hargrove stood quickly when they entered. "Miss Collins," he began awkwardly, "the town council wishes to offer a formal apology. Your position remains open, with an increase in salary." Emma stood steady, Ethan's presence solid beside her. "I appreciate the apology," she said calmly, "but I will not be returning." The mayor blinked. "You will not?" "I will be establishing a school at Everett Ranch for the children who cannot travel into town," she replied. Murmurs filled the office doorway. "And I will be marrying Mr. Everett." The mayor cleared his throat, clearly unsettled. "Well, congratulations." They left the office lighter than they entered. At the schoolhouse, Emma stepped inside one final time. Sunlight streamed across the empty desks, while she ran her fingers gently along the edge of her old table. "Are you certain?" Ethan asked softly. She turned to him with a peaceful smile. "Yes, I was meant to teach, just not here." Outside, a small voice called her name. "Miss Collins!" 10-year-old Sarah Jenkins came running down the street. "You came back!" the girl cried. Emma knelt to meet her eyes. "Only to say goodbye properly. Will you still teach?" "Yes," Emma said warmly, "but at the ranch." Sarah's face brightened. "Billy Cooper says he never learned his letters right because he lives too far." Emma smiled. "Then Billy Cooper will learn his letters." As they drove away from Willow Creek for the last time, Emma did not look back. She did not need to. The wedding was held beneath a clear blue sky at Everett Ranch. Neighbors gathered. Lanterns hung from cottonwoods. Mrs. Garcia oversaw every detail with proud precision. Emma wore a simple ivory gown. Ethan wore his best dark suit. When her father arrived from Boston, his expression softened as he took in the land and the man who stood waiting beneath the arbor. "You found your place," he told her quietly. "Yes," she whispered. When Ethan took her hands, his eyes held the same steady promise they had the day he rode beside her. "I will stand with you," he vowed. "Always." "And I will stand with you," she replied. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, cheers rose into the western sky. Weeks later, the east wing of the ranch house echoed with children's voices. 15 students sat at desks Ethan had ordered from Denver. Books lined the shelves. Sunlight filled the room. Emma stood at the front, a chalk in hand, her heart full. Outside, Ethan paused in his work to listen to the sound of learning drifting from the open window. That evening, they sat together on the porch, wrapped in a blanket as stars began to shine. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. She leaned against him. "None." He smiled. "You tried to walk out of town alone," he reminded her. She looked up at him, remembering the dust, the silence, the hurt. "Yes," she said softly. "And I rode beside you." He brushed a strand of auburn hair from her face. "Not alone again." Emma smiled, her heart steady and sure. Never alone again. Under the